Hello, Soap Insider 2.0 fans. Sheila Atkins has been arrested after taking Jordan, and Chelsea's worst nightmare has finally become reality. After secretly working with Gray, manipulating Ian Beale, and taking Jordan away from Chelsea, Sheila's plan to get the boy out of Walford has finally started to collapse. And now comes the moment that could change everything. Sheila is arrested after taking Jordan. Chelsea had spent days believing that she could keep her son safe by cutting Sheila out of their lives. But while Chelsea was fighting to expose Gray, Sheila was quietly preparing something much more serious. A stolen passport, a secret plan, a desperate journey to the airport, and a little boy caught in the middle.
But what Sheila didn't count on was the possibility that her plan would unravel before she could get Jordan to safety, or rather, to the future she had planned for him. So how did Chelsea end up trapped inside prison while Sheila was able to take Jordan? Why did Gray manipulate Ian into helping him? And most importantly, how does Sheila's kidnapping plan finally leads to her arrest? Let's get into the full EastEnders story. For Chelsea Fox, the biggest priority has always been Jordan. She knew that allowing Sheila back into their lives could be dangerous, especially because of Sheila's connection to Gray Atkins. Sheila had tried to reassure Chelsea that she had broken contact with Gray. She wanted Chelsea to believe that she could be trusted. But eventually, Chelsea discovered that this wasn't true. She had continued visiting Gray in prison, and worse than that, she had secretly taken Jordan to see his father.
Chelsea was absolutely furious. This wasn't just a small disagreement between two family members. Sheila had deliberately gone behind Chelsea's back and exposed Jordan to Gray without his mother's permission. When Chelsea discovered the truth, she confronted Sheila. She made it clear that the relationship was over. Sheila was no longer welcome around Jordan. And for a moment, it seemed like Chelsea had finally won. The danger had been removed. Or so she thought. Because Sheila had absolutely no intention of giving up. The biggest mistake Chelsea made was believing that Gray's influence ended at the prison gates. It didn't. Gray may be locked away, but he has already shown that he can manipulate people from behind bars, and Sheila was the perfect person to carry out his plans. Gray wanted Jordan. He wanted a relationship with his son, but he also knew that Chelsea would never voluntarily hand Jordan over.
So they needed a way to separate mother and son, and that meant Chelsea herself had to be removed from the picture. That's where Ian Beale came in. Gray offered Ian protection inside prison. Ian was frightened after another violent incident behind bars, so the offer was difficult to ignore. But Gray wanted something in return. Ian had to get Chelsea to come and visit him. It sounded innocent enough. Chelsea believed Ian had important information about Gray. She wanted answers. She wanted to know what was happening with the case, and she believed the prison visit could help her protect Jordan. Instead, she was walking directly into Gray's trap. 3. Sheila makes her move. While Chelsea was preparing to visit Ian, Sheila was watching Jordan. Kim had agreed to take Jordan and Pearl to a family event at the community centre. She promised Chelsea that Jordan would be looked after. Chelsea therefore had no reason to panic. Her son was safe. He was with people she trusted. But Sheila had already followed them.
She waited for the right moment, and then she made her move. Jordan disappeared. Kim was left horrified when she realized that Sheila had managed to take him. Suddenly, everything Chelsea had been worried about was happening at once. Jordan was gone. Sheila had him. At the same time, Chelsea arrived at the prison. She sat down with Ian, believing that he was finally going to give her useful information. She spoke about the appeal. She explained that she had changed her statement to the CPS, and she asked Ian what he knew about Gray. But Ian quickly realized that he had been manipulated. Gray had used him. He had been given a job to do, and now he understood what the consequences could be. Ian warned Chelsea. He told her to leave, but it was too late. Gray appeared. Chelsea immediately knew something was wrong. She tried to get away, but Gray had already arranged another distraction. A fight broke out involving another prisoner. The prison was locked down, and Chelsea was trapped inside. Think about the timing. Chelsea was locked inside prison, Jordan had disappeared, and Sheila was already driving away with him. This was exactly what Gray wanted.
With Chelsea unable to leave, Gray finally had the opportunity to speak to her. And his message was deeply disturbing. Gray insisted that Jordan was his son. He talked about Jordan having an amazing life away from Chelsea. He tried to make it sound as though he was doing this for the boy, but Chelsea knew better. She knows Gray's history. She knows what he has done. And she knows that Jordan being taken away from her is not some innocent family arrangement. It's a plan that Gray and Sheila have been building for some time. And there was one piece of evidence that made the whole thing even more worrying: Jordan's passport. When Sheila stole Jordan's passport, it became clear that she wasn't simply planning another secret visit. She was preparing for Jordan to leave the country. That completely changed the situation. If Sheila could get Jordan onto a plane, Chelsea's problems would become much bigger.
That completely changed the situation. If Sheila could get Jordan onto a plane, Chelsea's problems would become much bigger. She wouldn't simply have to stop Sheila from seeing him, she would have to find him. And that is why the airport became so important. Sheila had already done the difficult part. She had taken Jordan away from Kim. Chelsea was trapped. Gray was keeping Chelsea occupied, and Sheila was heading towards the next stage of the plan. But there was something Sheila didn't fully understand. Once a child is reported missing, the situation changes very quickly, and the longer Sheila remained away from Walford, the more attention she was likely to attract. This is where Sheila's biggest mistake may have been made. She thought that taking Jordan would give her control. Instead, it created evidence. Chelsea can now establish that Sheila had a motive. She had already been caught lying about her contact with Gray. She had secretly taken Jordan to prison.
Sheila had been warned to stay away from Jordan, but then Jordan disappeared while Sheila was nearby, and suddenly this looks far more serious than a simple misunderstanding. Once the authorities become involved, Sheila has some very difficult questions to answer. Why did she take Jordan? Where was she planning to take him? And why was his passport taken? But the biggest moment could come when Chelsea finally gets out of prison and discovers what has happened to her son. For Chelsea, this will be the ultimate betrayal. She had given Sheila another chance and allowed her to build a relationship with Jordan. Now she may feel that Sheila has completely destroyed that trust. And this could explain why Sheila is eventually arrested over the
Kidnapping plot. She believed she was carrying out Gray's wishes and getting Jordan away from Chelsea. But once the authorities catch up with her, the entire plan begins to collapse. And there is another person Chelsea may have questions for: Ian. Ian was manipulated and frightened into helping Gray, but his actions still helped create the opportunity for Chelsea to be separated from Jordan. That could make forgiveness very difficult. And then, of course, there's Gray. Sheila may be the one facing the immediate consequences, but Gray is still behind bars, and he may not simply give up. If investigators discover that he organised the plan from prison, his situation could become even more serious. The stolen passport, Sheila's communication with Gray, and Ian's involvement could all help expose what was really happening. For Chelsea, though, the priority will be simple: getting Jordan back and making sure Sheila can never put him in danger again. So Sheila's arrest may look like the end of the story, but it could actually be the beginning of something much bigger. Because if Sheila finally reveals exactly what Gray told her to do, Chelsea could get the proof she needs that Gray has been behind the entire plan. And that could change everything.